Hello, my name is Hope Welty, and I would like to thank you for joining us in Del Campo High School's Coug Media Studio. As we take the time to speak with candidates for the San Juan Unified School District's Board of Education, each of our videos will start up with a 2-minute introduction by the candidate. Then I will ask the candidate a series of questions that our parents, staff, students, and community members submitted, and our student staff helped select. Each candidate is asked the same questions, so if you'd like to hear another candidate's response, you'll be able to in their video. Candidates have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. To make sure that we can get all the questions in and that all the candidates will have equal opportunity to respond, our district office friend, Elizabeth Zeladon, will help keep track of time and let us know if we approach the 2-minute mark. After questions, the candidates will have up to 2-minute closing statement, so be sure to watch all the way through. Now let me introduce to you Tanya Kravchuk, who is running to represent Trustee Area 5. Hello, candidate Kravchuk. Please begin with your opening statement.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Tanya Kravchuk. I am a mom of 4. I am a small business owner. My husband and I own a construction company, and we have lived in Orangevale for about a decade now. I have 3 kiddos who go to San Juan schools. I have one in elementary, one in middle, and one in high school. So I have an understanding of what goes on in all 3 of those settings. I was originally born in Ukraine. My family moved to America just to seek more opportunity and religious and educational freedom. And that's one of the things that is very important to me, is to have a lot of opportunities for our future generations to be able to grow, to be able to have a quality education and succeed in this world. So my hope is to improve academics, to be able to encourage kids to either go on to college or have vocational training so they could go into a trade and do something with their hands. And I hope that you will allow me to make a difference in San Juan schools by voting Tanya Kravchuk.
All right, our question 1 is going to be, San Juan Unified stopped providing home-to-school transportation more than a decade ago. What can be done to help make sure that students can get to and from school safely?
That's a great question. I think school buses are definitely expensive and maybe not the best choice fiscally for the school district, particularly for San Juan. I do know that we spend a lot of money on transportation, and that there have been parent committees that have researched this topic at length and submitted their findings and also their recommendations to the board. At that time, the board didn't even present the findings that this group had researched. And one of them, although a little bit comical, was literally having a limo company pick up the kids and drop them off, and that would have been cheaper than the current contracts that we have with school bus and the system that we have in place right now. So I don't know that that's the best thing to do. I definitely think that we should revisit the findings of that group and see, if the research has already been done, let's look at that and see what we can implement in a fiscally responsible manner that keeps our kids safe.
Many families were impacted by the change to start times this school year, whether it be by a lack of supervision in the morning before school or a time crunch after school trying to fit in activities. What supports did you see the district implement to help families adjust, and what else do you think can be done?
So having 3 kiddos in school, I definitely sympathize. It was harder. Most of my morning meetings usually start at 9, so it was harder to have that later start date. I do see that the kids our mornings are much more happy now. They sleep in, and if they do wake up, they read or they do something productive. So for the parents who are able to have that at home, it's actually been pretty positive, but I can understand that that's not everyone's circumstance. I do think that the schools can provide some more before school help. There's a lot of after school programs and funding that's available. So now that we have shifted to school starting later, perhaps we can move some of that funding and allocate it towards before school, if you will, to encourage those kids to come, whether it's reading or finishing up homework or just some type of fun activity. I think that would be a really positive thing to do in our schools.
Most districts in California, including San Juan Unified, are facing declining student enrollment at those schools. Why do you think this is, and what ideas do you have to combat declining enrollment?
Absolutely. I see it with my peers, with my family and friends. Most of the parent groups that I'm involved in, they have, after COVID in particular, have taken their kids out of public schools and now are either homeschooling or putting their kids into a charter or private school. And I understand the need to protect your kids and make sure that you know what they're being taught and that they're safe. There's a lot of safety concerns all over the U.S., particularly after Uvalde, and I think we need to address those and really understand why parents are hesitant to send their kids to school. What has happened? What has changed in the last, couple of years since I have been a student at San Juan schools? And I think that goes back to that safety issue, and then curriculum and just in the way that our kids are being taught. We want to make sure that our kids' bodies are protected, absolutely, maybe with more resource officers and some more safeguards in place at the school. But I also want to do a deep dive into the curriculum and make sure that I am comfortable with what my children are hearing for 7 hours a day.
What can San Juan Unified do to provide classes that have meaning to students and learning that can be used in the real world?
That's a great question. I have a 14-year-old, and I feel like him and all of his friends, they want to be YouTubers and bloggers and all these tech things, which is great. There's definitely a place for them. But we also own a construction company, and you can't hire an electrician or a carpenter to save your life. It's just, we are not encouraging our kids to go into trades, and these are things that we need on the daily in our community. These are things that have a meaningful impact, but I think with the tech evolution and all of the advances that we have been making, most of our time has been spent pushing them towards those type of fields. And a program like this, a media class that is giving real world experience so that when you graduate, you actually have something on your resume that you've already done. That's meaningful and that's impactful. So I think we should do that with as many trades and vocations as we can, where we give hands-on training to students and give them a wider scope, what they could look at that's more than just tech or YouTube.
What role does the Board of Education play in making sure that we have the highest quality teachers and staff to serve students and family?
The board sets the vision, and first of all, that's with the hiring of the superintendent, and then it's really setting the standards, the academic rigor for the school district. And I mentioned that I was born in Ukraine. I grew up as an English learner. So my family, we didn't fit in. I didn't celebrate the same holidays. I didn't have the same customs, even though I may have looked like some of my classmates. I didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't have help with my homework when I went home. I didn't have a lot of the supports, but I was able to excel. In elementary, I was in the gifted and talented program and later in honors programs. And the fact that I immigrated here didn't stop me from excelling. I was always held to higher standards and told that I could do more. I think kids are incredibly resilient, they are smart, and they will live up to the standards that we set. So as a board, it is our responsibility to set high standards and ensure that those are met by accountability with the superintendent, with the teachers, make sure that we're looking at who's succeeding, who isn't, and what we can do about that to really encourage a higher standard of education.
With more than $1 billion in community-supported bond funds, San Juan has been able to do a lot to improve and rebuild facilities. Do you support more bonds in the future, and how would you prioritize which schools the funds are spent at?
I do not currently support more bonds. San Juan has a surplus right now of money that we can look at how best to utilize. So before I put more burdens on the taxpayer, I would want to look at how we're spending that money now and maybe where we can cut that spending to allocate it better. My kids' school, I mean, I think that there's like a couple of drinking fountains. Not all of the air conditioning is working in all of the classrooms. There's very basic things that can help provide a better environment for students so that they could learn, that I would start with, but absolutely modernizing our classroom, providing more opportunities for them to engage with modern technology and learn the newest types of things. I think that would be great. I would love to do a partnership maybe with some of the companies locally that are making huge advances in these fields, and maybe we can just leverage those supports instead of asking our taxpayers to have a higher burden and pay for it when we've already been doing that.
What would you like to specifically see done to improve safety on school campuses? This is a big and really important question, and I think because San Juan is so large, we're, I think, the 10th largest school district in California, and we're diverse. We have Citrus Heights and Carmichael and Fair Oaks, and all the schools are different, but we all share in common that we want to keep our kids safe. So I would want to look at the current safety plans that we have and how specific they are to the area. Of course, they're going to be general principles, but I do also think that we need to keep in mind, what are the issues that are going on in all the different areas and address those needs instead of just having like a blank uniform response. I definitely think we need to have more resource officers. I definitely think we have to have a better relationship with law enforcement and probation. And of course, I would start with the safety of the child's just internal, emotional well-being, making sure that the kids feel safe and are able to engage their brain to learn. So a couple of different things to that, but start with looking at our safety plans and going from there. What is the single most impactful thing you can do as a board member to make sure that the district and its schools remain financially sound and have balanced budgets? Balanced budget, that's probably a loaded type of thing. First of all, you have to look at it. The first meeting of a new school board is going to be in December, and that'll be the budget, which is huge. And most people don't look at budgets that are that large, and I think probably the reaction would be to just approve things the way that they have always been. But in order to make a good decision, you have to do your research. You have to look at what's being done, what's working, and what isn't. And I wouldn't want to just say something off the cuff that I would cut this or cut that or implement something because I would have to have a thorough knowledge of what we are doing currently. Like I mentioned earlier, San Juan currently has a surplus fiscally. So something has been done right up until now. So let's not fix something that isn't broken, but concentrate on the areas that we can improve. But I do really strongly believe in community partnership. I think that everyone locally wants the schools to succeed. They want a better school system is better for home values, for for jobs, for all of these things. So there's a shared interest in having schools be successful, and so we should work with those partners to leverage their resources and improve our schools. Like many of the adults in our community, some students are struggling with their mental health and resiliency. What is the school's district's role in supporting student mental health, and what would you do as a board member to make sure that it happens? So I spent about a decade working in social services, most recently at the Children's Receiving Home of Sacramento. I'm definitely no stranger of how important mental health is and how important it is to help particularly children that are struggling. However, I do think that there sometimes is confusion from the general public, well-meaning people who would like to help students and children,
by labeling things as mental health that are not. So I really want to make sure that our definition is the same, and that we are not further confusing our children by breaking down their identities, but actually building them up and giving them hope and just kind of instilling in them the fact that they can succeed and that this is a place where they belong. There is definitely a place for counselors, but I think that relationship between teacher and parent and the student is the most important. The best thing that we can do is to keep our parents involved, because they're going to be the ones who know best what's happening at home. And if everyone who is involved they all have a piece of the picture, but if they're communicating and we have the whole picture, we are better able to create a solution for that child than just if we're acting in our silos.
Do unions have too much power in California schools?
My honest answer to that is yes. I think that there's lots of special interest groups that are vying for our time and our attention, and like it or not, funding produces some type of pool, and there is a place for them, but I think our special interest groups should be parents and children. Children are our primary focus. So if we're not making decisions that are student first, child first, then we're not making a good decision. So whether that's coming from a union or other special interest, then it's wrong. If we're on a school board, if we're focused on improving education and keeping our kids safe, then we need to create policy and uphold policy that puts students first.
As students, we see acts of hate speech and bias on our campus. As a board member, what would you do to address these concerns?
Now, there's definitely no place for hate or bullying, and a lot of schools have initiated zero tolerance programs and different things like that. I think it's a matter of education. I had mentioned I am an immigrant, so I didn't fit in. I definitely had my share of bullying, or just most of the time kids just don't understand. If we have conversations, if we are able to have a meal with someone or work in a group project and just get to know each other, it's very difficult to hate someone that you get to know. So I think, breaking it down, taking it down to its basics of really fostering relationships, encouraging a welcoming environment in the classroom and at the school. There's definitely policies you can do, to deal with the consequences and all of that. And I would do that at the board level, but I think that those are already in place. I would, though, be more interested that in the classroom and just on a cafeteria or recess level, we are making sure that that students, that peers are understand what it is to have compassion, and that our differences make us unique and special instead of less than.
How have you seen the district listen to the voice of students, and what other ideas do you have for how students' voice can be expanded?
I think that we have implemented some changes in San Juan that have been really positive. Moving Sylvan Middle School, which was my alma mater, that was my middle school that I attended, over to where Citrus Heights used to be, incorporating more media classes, kind of some changes with just the curriculum and things that we're offering our kids. I definitely think that was student-led and accepted by the board. I love that we have our student council present at board meetings and we're able to hear from them monthly. But I think we can do more. Parents and children are having conversations at home, and then they're taking that back to the board meetings and are not being heard, even though they're asking, and they're forming these coalitions and associations, and they're asking for the board to listen and do something about it. And I don't feel like we do a great job of that. There's a lot of room for improvement there.
Thank you, Candidate Kravchuk. Do you have a closing statement you would like to state? As
a mom of 3 kiddos who are in the San Juan School District, I understand personally the challenges that are faced at home. This awakening happened for me during COVID when I had 3 kiddos Zooming and myself trying to work from home and a toddler running around. It was pretty chaotic, and it really opened up my eyes to the challenges that our kids are experiencing. And I started paying attention, and I should have done this earlier, but that happened for me, and so I decided that I didn't just want to stand by. I didn't want to vent on social media. I didn't want to put my kids into a charter or homeschool or something like that. I live here. I care about this community. I care about the 50,000 students or so that are in the San Juan School District, and I want better for them. I want better for our community. I want to be able to hire people for my company that can read and write and articulate themselves and contribute back to society. And I think I can do that. I not only understand students, but I also am a business owner and leader in community, and I also understand policy and how to go about implementing change. So the heart is there, the desire is there, and I also have the skill to back that up. So I hope that you will trust me with doing what's best for your kids, because in doing that, I will be doing what's best for my kids. I understand parents, I understand children, and I want a really just high quality, world-class education for all of our kids.
Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to go and watch every candidate's video, and please go out and vote.